life, every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Evening, morning, good afternoon, folks. It's Friday. It's the day before the Super Wildcard Weekend, and this is the NFC West Round Table Playoff Wildcard Round thing, whatever we're calling it today. Got myself and Bo here. Sam's due to join us any second, so welcome him on to the NFC West.
Still hitting them corners and them lolos.
It's the call of the Cardinals.
There's only one team, and they're the Seahawks.
Still taking my time to perfect the beat, and I still got love for the streets. It's the D.R.E.
Got to eke out that intro just a couple of more times, right? I mean, all the effort that went into it. We got to play it. We got to play it some more. And unfortunately, JT can't join us today. He's stuck at work, and that, which is either a good or a bad thing because I think we're supposed to be talking about the wild card, but I think JT's probably got quite a lot to say about Kyler and Cliff Kingsbury and the situation at Arizona. I mean,
there's a lot to talk about that dumpster fire happening over there.
Yeah, where would you start to unpick that one? I mean, a quarterback down with a bad knee injury, and there's rumors coming out. I don't know if you've seen some of the rumors and the rumblings that, you know, some of the other Cardinals players are like, you know, he's got his money. He doesn't seem to be putting 100% effort into the rehab just yet. I mean, granted, it's still quite early, but if they're already worried and starting to rumbling about that, your new head coach is now, you know, the head coach position is now open. It's like, oh, what is going on there? I think GM went as well, didn't they, as well?
Yep. GM's gone. The thing that worries me about that is they're leaving it open for him to have input on who they hire. And it's always weird for an employee to have
that
say over who their boss is going to be. Like, that seems, it doesn't seem like a great idea. And it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. Like, I don't like the feel of that generally. Like, maybe
it's almost handing over the keys, isn't it, to the kingdom.
Like, if a quarterback coach coming in, I definitely get the input there because they got to work together and they need styles that might, you know, mirror each other well. But as a head coach, that, I don't know. I've never been a fan of that move.
That's a strange one, as you say, because then, like, the head coach is always like almost seeking approval from the quarterback all the way through. He's like, "Can you know, is that okay, Kyler? Can we play this play? Can we do this play?"
Exactly. That's why when we were talking the other day, I was like, "Oh, which coach plays Call of Duty?" Because then we could narrow the field down.
You can quickly get on COD. It's like, oh, it looks like Peyton's got quite a healthy. Yeah, there you go. You know? So yeah, obviously the merry-go-round and coaches has already started. And interesting enough, D'Amico Ryans was asked by the Cardinals to come in and see if he wants to go to an interview for the head coach. And I don't know if he. You know, it's an interesting one. I don't think he would go into division, let alone into conference. I mean, we hope. I mean, first of all, you know, ideal scenario is we somehow manage to hold on to him. But I mean, that is a pipe dream, I think, right? But if he's going to go anywhere, please go to the AFC because, you know, I don't want to see him in the NFC, but he certainly don't want to see him in your NFC West in the same division. That would be. I don't know if that's ever happened where, you know, an OC or a DC has been given a head coach job in the same division that they've come through.
Not that I can think of offhand.
There's got to be some sort of agreement in place where it's like, okay, look, you've got to go outside the division because you know all the ins and outs of this team so much. You would have thought.
Yeah, I mean, that would definitely give you a leg up on a divisional rival.
2 games a season, you kind of think, well, we don't really have to worry about this one because here's the playbook. Like, yeah. But then again, you said that about, you know, we thought that about McDaniels coming to visit the Niners, and that didn't quite work out.
True.
So here we are. We are approaching, as they're calling it, the Super Wildcard Weekend. I don't know why it has to be a Super Wildcard Weekend. I'm guessing it's because they're Martin Luther King Day on the Monday. It's an extended kind of holiday weekend or something.
They changed that a few years ago. So, like, I think it's the last 3 or 4 seasons in a row they've called it Super Wildcard Weekend. I've never really figured out why that terminology changed, unless they, you know, wanted to have their graphics guys have more work to do. I really don't
put
know.
An extra word in or something, or somebody else think like a trademark the Wildcard Weekend or something, so they had to shoehorn super into something.
It was probably MLB.
Major League Baseball are going, hey, we've got a wildcard weekend. You can't have it anymore. It's like, all right, we'll call it Super Wildcard Weekend just because Yeah, because it's like, I mean, it's no difference. It's just, it is just the wild card. It is sometimes it's interesting. The wildcard weekend's always an interesting one for me because it's the first kind of knockout round, everything kind of ramps up, but it's often the uneven wildcard games, isn't it? It's often the knockout games which tend to have the Georgia TCU kind of blowout games and stuff. Just got to shoehorn that one in because what was that?
They're not usually quite that bad, but yeah, I mean they are usually a little bit lopsided, especially when it's if it's the 2 versus the 7, like that's
the 7 is just
not generally a great game. But when it's the 4 and 5, that's usually a solid game. So there's usually a couple of games that are decent.
But you say that in the NFC, the 4 and 5, it doesn't look like that would be a close game because the Bucks who kind of got in with their losing season, and then the Dallas who, actually are on a bit of one at the moment, but not in the right sort of direction, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean the thing with that though is Dallas is Dallas and it's playoff time, and so they're gonna cowboy, right?
They're gonna cowboy at some point. Is it the first weekend or is it in the next game? They're gonna do a cowboy.
Oh, without a doubt. I think they sneak by Tampa Bay. I think it's an ugly win because they just haven't been playing well. But Tampa is so limited with what they can do, and as inconsistent as their play has been, I think it's going to be a pretty tight game. But I think the Cowboys kind of sneak one out. In the interest of just calamity, it would be cool to see Tampa just blow them out and see what happens to Mike McCarthy. Because then you have to fire him, right? So
it's got to fire. I mean, if he gets through and wins 1 or 2 divisional, wild card games or playoff games, then he's kind of like, well, my job's safe. But surely Jerry's sitting there on the finger on the trigger, going, watch out, watch out. There's plenty of other, Sean Payton's out there, and it's almost. I can't see Sean Payton going to the Cowboys, even though the story's there and it's amazing. But Jerry's just too much of a overpowering sort of. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have the same issue that Jimmy Johnson did. I mean, Jimmy Johnson could have won way more there if Jerry
should have set up. He should have set up 5 or 6 games. He should have won 5, 6, 7 rings on the bounce with that team. But
absolutely, but Jerry had to meddle and everything, and they're both big personalities. And if your owner needs to be the guy, tough for your coach to also be the guy.
Yeah,
so
you then have to have a coach which is a meek or a lesser character, but then how does that transcend into the locker room where you don't get a coach who's got strong enough personality, and you've got big personalities in your locker room who then override the coach from both
that's
sides.
Where you end up with the Jason Garretts, right? The whole game plan right here.
Just clap and go, yeah, you guys do whatever you want because I don't know what I'm doing, and Jerry just tells you what to do anyway.
Good job, guys. 8-8. All right.
We'll take that. Still wins the division because, hey, it was that time and that was good enough for that division.
It was sad.
Those are bad years. Those are bad years. But yeah, I mean, there are some interesting matches. I think the NFC ones I think they're all pretty much, they're not, I don't expect too many shocks in the NFC playoffs. I think.
I think the most, I don't know, that Tampa Dallas game is going to be interesting, and it's why the line is only 3 points, right? That's a toss up. Neither team is consistent. Both have a tendency to find ways to lose when it matters. So, who knows? Dallas
I think the Dallas defense is probably just strong enough to hold off.
Dallas has a way better roster just across the board. Like, it's a way better roster. But it's are they going to fall apart?
Yes, and it's also Tom and playoff Lenny and whatever else. Who knows what
exactly.
It could be? Could just be, couldn't it? But yeah, you're right. That's one of those ones that I don't think if the Bucks win, it's not a major shock, and it's one of those ones that goes either way. But then you look at the other ones, you think the Vikings and the Giants. You think, well done, New York, for getting in, but you can't really see them much further than that, right?
That's another one that that's a coin flip to me. Because you really don't know which Vikings team is going to show up. I mean, the only saving grace is it's a midday game. Like, if it was prime time, I'd actually take the Giants in that game because that's prime time Cousins, right?
It's prime time Kirk, right? And everyone knows that that's a minus 6 points straight off there.
100%.
Yeah, I just think the Vikings have, enough weapons and a more balanced game, because the Giants are just going to hand the ball to Saquon because they have nothing else. You look at their wide receiver core and you go, who? What? Who? I think Kenny was it. What was the joke that went around? Golladay just missed out on his incentive bonus by 74 catches. It's like, oh wow, he could have earned $750,000 if he'd have caught 75 catches, and he missed out by 74. It's like, what? Ouch type thing. But their receiving core is not great, to say the least. So it is a one trick pony. So you can think that the Vikings defense should be able to kind of set up against that, and with Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Thielen, you think that should be enough to get them over the line on that one?
For sure. Yeah, and I took the Vikings in that. I mean, that's another team that, again, their roster is just so much better than the Giants. But when they come out flat, man, they're bad.
Oh, yeah.
So,
I mean, they're in the playoffs with a minus points differential or something. They've actually like minus 3.
Yeah. And somehow they've won. They ended up with 13 games.
4 or something. Maybe.
Well, yeah, but of the 13 games, I think all of them were less than a score.
Yeah, so one by one score or something, didn't they? Or less than one score.
I mean that's insane. And you figure that has to run out. So I mean, their playoff run won't be long. Like I think they get by the Giants, and then the next round they're done.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of there that you think are one and done, sort of, don't you? Type thing if they get through. And then there's our game where, as we just before we jumped on, we were talking the weather could level things up again to kind of balance it out, because I think if it was dry and it was a normal game, I think probably the Niners would probably be at least a I think it's 10-point favorite. I mentioned, the line is showing us 10 points, but apparently it's supposed to be monsoon-esque. Very much like the Bears get windy, wet, so it's going to be it's not going to be much through the air. So it's definitely going to be who can hold on to the ball, which it's all going to be about which offense can drive for the longest and keep the defense on the field. I think. I mean, if you can keep the ball and make those long drives and get the defense tired, then over the 60 minutes, that's going to win you the game, and it'll be interesting. It's just going to be whose running game is going to be best, I think.
Well, and so the other thing with it being wet is tight end play. And of course, you guys have a pretty solid tight end. So,
who's also, he has sparked up a very good connection with Brock Purdy. They seem to have, the Iowa connection or whatever it is. There's something there where he's obviously, the tight end's always a safety blanket for a new rookie QB and whatever else anyway. But those two seem to have found a spark or a chemistry. So yeah, I think the tight end play will be pretty important for those short yardage
all year for the Hawks. The only thing that's going to be good about it is if it is real windy, all of a sudden Diggs gets to play down as opposed to having to stay back, because you're not going to be launching the ball 40 yards plus down the field. So he'll be able to come in and help out with those kind of across the middle seam routes, stuff like that, where the tight ends have really gouged the Hawks through the year. So all of a sudden you get that extra, DB kind of in the middle of the field that, could help slow some of that down, which would be a huge key to this game, really.
Yeah. And that's the thing. It is just, it's going to be in the trenches. It's going to be, how if you can keep it to third and short, if you have to get to a third down, you can't be looking at 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8, and as you say, in the torrential rain and wind and stuff, then the defense is definitely going to be on top. So I'm confident, but less confident with the weather. I think it is going to be one of those watch right to the end, through the eyes, through the fingers. No nails are going to be left. It's probably going to end up like 15-12 or a field goals and just kicking game and whatever else.
Yeah, well,
it's playoff football, right?
You won't even feel good about the kicking game, really. I mean,
because it's so wet
unless you're
underfoot.
inside the 30.
Wind, and it's wet underfoot. Is he going to slip? Is he going to? It's going to have to be like
Yeah.
shore, and even point afters. I mean, because they've pushed those down, haven't they? So they're now 35-yard sort of field goals, which are no gimmies anymore. So yeah, it's going to be
wind.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it will definitely be I don't imagine it's going to be a pretty game to watch.
No, I mean, it should be entertaining though. And, again, there's some other things for the Hawks that have been encouraging is like Walker's had over 100 yards the last 3 games in a row. And it's not like the Rams have a bad defense. The offense is, obliterated with injuries, but their defense is still pretty solid. And then we were also able to get 100 yards on the Jets defense, which that defense has a top 5 run defense. And so, for them to be able to get over 100 yards with Walker and, 150 plus as a team on a couple of pretty solid defenses was that's encouraging going into this game, especially where a running game is going to be necessary.
And as you say, as we mentioned last time out, played you twice already, third time. Winning against a divisional rival 3 times in one season is not an easy task. You've learned each other, you learned stuff, and Pete's going to be coming with something special because it's playoffs. It's the third time you're playing. He's going to want to not get swept for 3, obviously. So there's definitely, I think Pete's going to be dialing up some stuff. But again, as I say, the weather may then rein some of the crazies or rein some of that sort of dialed up special plays back, unfortunately, because you're not going to want to be doing trick plays in the torrential rain and wind, are you?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Sometimes those are the best time for trick plays because you're really not looking for them.
You really don't expect like a reverse to the wide receiver who suddenly lobs it 40 yards down the field. But
I mean, the Rams did it to the Hawks a bunch of times through Jeff Fisher's tenure during bad weather or just like bizarre timing. He'd bring out the weirdest trick plays, and they always worked because you're never looking for them because he'd bring them out when it didn't matter, or he'd have his team. One of them I watched, I was mad watching it because it even fooled the camera guy. They did a kickoff to the left, and their entire coverage team went to the right. So all of the Hawks went to the right, and then it was just a straight line down the line. And the whole time, I'm like, how did nobody stay home?
Everyone's gone over there, and the guy's like, you've all fallen for it. And I think, as you say, it was great. It was well done from the receiving team because they all went, it's all over here. And it's like,
the execution was amazing.
Beautiful, yeah. But you hope that, and it's those sorts, and I think it will be one of those games, if the weather's like that it will be a big play that changes it, a turnover or a special teams play or something like that that's going to have to maybe kind of break it. Because if it's both teams kind of churn the field up, go down, kick a field goal, back and forth, it might need a kickoff return or it might need a punt block. It might need something like that just to kind of push one team over the edge.
And you probably will see some, if it's really going to be that sloppy out there, you're probably going to see some kickoff returns or punt returns that are, maybe have some impressive yardage behind them because it's hard to recover. The field is sloppy. So I don't know. It's going to be a fun watch. It's definitely going to be some ugly football, but it's going to be fun to watch.
Ugly football, but it's going to be fun to watch. And hopefully at the end of it, it'll be a home win. But obviously for yourself, you're hoping for the Hawks to come in and spoil the party. But we'll see. We'll still be friends afterwards, right?
Absolutely. And it's funny because I picked the Niners to win. I don't think you covered, but I picked them to win. Just roster alone, right? As an objective, it's like the Niners probably win. As a fan, obviously, I hope they don't. But but realistically, based on the best defense in the league and the rest of your team really getting healthy at the right time.
Yeah, I think we've only got 2 people out total. Yeah. One of those is Jimmy G, and one of them is I think it was Aaron Banks. No. One guy, yeah. So it's like 2 guys out of the 53, are out, and one of them we knew was going to be there. And I think you're missing a couple of big guys on your defensive line, aren't you, or something? I think.
Yeah. The nose tackle, Neal, I believe, is done for the year, and I believe he was put on IR. I know that Disley is on IR. There's a couple other guys. One of our defensive ends is out. He's also done for the year, toward an ACL. So there's a lot of injuries, and when you're taking pieces away from a defensive line that already wasn't very good, it doesn't spell success.
And you've not been great against the run all season either, have you? It's been kind of your Achilles heel.
It's been bad. They did okay, the last couple weeks defending the run, but it was against two teams that don't run the ball great.
Not
there's
the
a
best
lot you can take from that.
Yeah, so you look good against those teams. The Rams are running offenses.
Yeah, right. They've had the same starting five for 4 or 5 of the entire weeks of the year. So none of that says here we go.
But as you say, as a fan, you're right behind them, but maybe a little bit like, just don't be bad. Just don't be too bad. Almost.
Yeah, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, if you're a Hawks fan, this year was a success regardless of what happens this weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, this weekend, you're playing with house money across the board. Everybody basically had them pegged as a 3 or 4 win team, maybe. And for them to have a winning record, get into the playoffs, win or lose, that's a winning season, really. You were counted out before you even took the first snap of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. As you say, you got your 6 rookies who have had an outstanding season from starting. You've got a third pick in the draft coming up.
It dropped to 5th. Broncos decided to win a game. Yeah.
Thanks, Broncos. As your head coach leaves.
Oh yeah. No, I really don't think it changes what they do, though. I mean, I didn't think they were going to draft a quarterback because really
Gino's on a team-friendly deal right now as well, right? So you've got a chance
his contract's up at the end of the season. So is
he a free agent?
Yeah, so this offseason, we actually don't have a quarterback on the roster. But I didn't think they were going to use that first pick for a quarterback anyway, because in this draft, although there's 10 draftable quarterbacks,
they're all projects, though, aren't they? There's no plug-in.
The first 2 aren't, but you weren't going to get the first 2 anyway. So even at 3.
I'm hearing Stroud might go back to Ohio State.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't hear that. I thought he was.
I just saw it. He's got till the 16th, but I think there's rumblings about if he gets an NIL deal at Ohio State, he might go back.
Oh, that actually kind of makes sense. That kind of makes sense, especially based on the teams that they could potentially be going to. I might wait a year also.
You might suddenly go, I don't really want to play for those teams, can I?
Right? I think I might die if I play for the Texans.
Yeah, nobody wants that. I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, the Texans kind of decided to win a game. The Broncos won a couple of games, moved some of that chessboard pieces around. I think that the Colts now are probably looking at the Texans going, well, gee, thanks a lot. You just cost us a little bit more to trade up for Chicago's pick. Chicago are not going to take the first pick, are they? They're going to trade out for there. So
they're definitely
getting the haul of picks. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they're definitely trading out. And they're going to be able to get a haul for it now because, I mean, they think they have their quarterback. So if that's the case, then they need to move back and fix that offensive line so that they can stop treating him as a direct snap halfback. Yeah. So maybe we can see if he can throw the ball because at this point, who knows?
At this point, he's got to catch and run because he's got no time to stand there and look, right? So yeah, absolutely, they're going to go back and get 3 or 4 really good offensive linemen and stuff like that later on.
Realistically, that's what the Hawks are going to do. Is they'll probably end up trading back because what they need is interior offensive line, defensive line, and maybe some depth at linebacker. And all of those things you can get in the late first round, early second round. And since they have, 2 first rounders, 2 second rounders, and, a menagerie of other picks, if they trade that first round back, you can end up with, still your 2 first rounders, maybe your 2 second, maybe 3 second, certainly a few thirds,
if an extra thirds thrown in. Yeah.
So, I mean, they can really address some of those defensive issues by trading that first one back. And since they probably weren't going to use it on a quarterback anyway, it seems like probably the route they were going to go. Besides, there are so many quarterback options this year because you got
the free agency market is huge, isn't it?
It's insane. There's 23 set to hit free agency just anyway. And then you have guys like Carr that are going to get released. You got Tannehill that's probably going to get the opt-out on his, not that he's a good fit for the Hawks, but that's just
somebody might want to. Yes, there's a body, right? It's a body who's played in the NFL, so somebody's going to pick him up.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, and then of course you got all of the rookies that are coming in. It's like, man, there's a lot
of picking for
coming in than there are teams.
And also, I mean, as you say, and another thing to add into that mix is all those teams with new head coaches. So we'll be looking to, they're going to be, are they just going to hold station? Are they going to find their franchise quarterback? Because if they want to look for a franchise quarterback, the only place to get that now is your new guy, right? You're not going to go and get a free agency guy because it'll cost you a fortune. So you're going to be looking for lots of moves. And I think obviously the Colts are in there to trade up. Mm-hmm. Jets are obviously, I don't think the Jets have got a lot of free agency space. That's the problem for them. I'm not sure who they're going to pick up.
I could see the Jets really making a play for Carr.
If he's released and he comes cheap, yeah.
I don't even know if they need him necessarily to be cheap because they're not paying a quarterback anyway currently.
Yeah, Zach Wilson's on
he's on the rookie deal,
but he's gone. Right?
They're going to boot him out, and Mike White is a free agent this year, so they're not going to have a quarterback either. So now all of a sudden, a guy like Derek Carr looks real appealing because he could run that offense. That offense really just needs somebody that can accurately throw the ball and not turn it over all the time. And then he would be going to a team that actually has a defense.
Yeah. So, and Derek Carr in New York, it's never going to be about after being in Vegas.
Yeah,
it'll be a pretty good phase for the Giants. I don't know. The Jets. There lots of moving parts are going to happen there, and I don't think all the coaching, firing, and hiring is quite finished yet either, is it? So,
oh, definitely not. No, there's still some pieces going to move. Although it'd be interesting to see if the Raiders make a strong play to go get Lamar.
Yeah, because he's still not signed that contract in Baltimore yet, have they? He hasn't,
which means that relationship really has to be not awesome at this point.
Not great. And he's not playing this weekend either, is he? He's out with his knee's not 100%. So I see them going out to the Bengals. I don't see them beating the Bengals without Lamar.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah. So then he's got to be the number one free agent or QB on the market, right? So everyone's going to be making. Yeah,
easily. The only downside is if you're going to go get him, I mean, you got to back up the Brinks truck because he's gonna want paying, right? And he wants that Deshaun Watson contract, right? He wants that guaranteed,
fully guaranteed, or he wants the Kyler contract, right? He wants that sort of fully guaranteed.
Yeah.
Pay me for the next 5 years, and I'll be your guy type thing. And fair play to him. Well, why not? He's only got one more contract left, I should imagine, at the pinnacle of.
Yeah, I mean he's in the center of his prime. I mean, the one thing with Lamar is they really downplay how his throwing of the football has evolved because in the beginning, everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, he's a running back that plays quarterback." The first couple of years, that was fairly accurate. I will give him that. But if you watch the way he's been able to throw the ball over the last couple of years, really, they've become far more accurate, better throwing from the pocket, still able to run, still able to throw on the run, and way better decision-making when he throws. So he's really evolved into a quarterback that is a quarterback. And I think
happens to be a pretty good runner rather than
a lot of times. What's that?
Yeah, and I think he's still kind of, I don't want to say tarred with, but he's still just seen as that all action gadget running quarterback, isn't he? Not now, as you say, he's evolved over a couple of seasons because you didn't expect him to in his first 2 seasons because that was his strength is decision making and pocket presence and all that stuff. It's stuff that you learn over time. Nobody walks in and knows what they're doing there. So he used his legs to great effect in those early years. and
Well,
all the other stuff's come along to he doesn't now need to do that so much. Although they did trade away most of their wide receiving core and put everything on the running back. So yeah, again, you didn't get a chance to see him throwing it too much because he didn't have anybody to throw it to.
yeah, well, and it's funny because he gets kind of dumped into that Cam Newton type conversation, which, you know, he's a way better athlete than Cam was. Cam,
Yeah.
he was big,
Just
right?
big, yeah.
And so he could run people over, but he didn't have the athleticism that Lamar does. But Cam also never really evolved that ability to throw the ball. So when he started getting hurt and wasn't able to, you know, go head to head with linebackers, you know, he wasn't making plays anymore.
Yeah, that super Cam kind of quickly, the cape got torn off once he couldn't run, couldn't do all that sort of stuff. Yeah, and as you say, he got found out when he started bouncing around teams and they're like, Cam Newton. Oh, actually, wait, no, he's not that Cam Newton anymore. He's just, as you say, a big guy who can't really throw it that well. But I think
it was funny because you'd look at his career and people even still sometimes mention that he could go to the Hall of Fame, and it's just like, you got to be out of your mind. If you look at his career, he didn't have winning seasons back ever.
Yeah, one good season. I can't.
Yeah, he had his MVP season, but like he would have a winning season and then a losing season, and then a winning season and a losing season. He never had back-to-back good seasons ever, despite the fact that they had more or less a very similar team the whole time.
Yeah. So yeah, the consistency, you know, I mean, Hall of Fame talk about that. You're like, they bandy Hall of Fame talk around a little bit too easy now compared to some players. I think it's safe to say. I mean, the Niners, we've been blessed, and you know, we are blessed. We have plenty in the Hall of Fame, but there's a couple of players who still aren't in there, which like, that's a bit of a head scratching moment. Why some of them are not in. When you hear more recent ones who kind of, it's a Hall of Fame, and it's like, he's had 4 good seasons maybe, and you can't, you know. Anyway, we digress.
That was like when Eli, you know, getting in. It's just like, okay, I mean, he had a couple of Super Bowls, but he was never great.
He was never
right. Like the Hall of Fame is supposed to be you're the best at your craft. Like he won a couple of Super Bowls because he was able to string 4 wins together at the end of a season. They weren't exactly like dominant powerhouses going into those.
yeah, and there are interesting ones like that, and you think, is it because it was in New York? Is that why he got it?
It definitely adds consideration, right? Because there's more screen time, you know, and so people are familiar.
Coverage and you see them,
people remember back on certain elements fondly, right?
yeah. Hey, Eli was the one who threw the OBJ catch, wasn't he? Oh, yeah, but it was a catch. That wasn't Eli's throwing a type thing. Yeah, you do think that, you know, and I think, you know, Seattle have certainly, I think, suffered from the West, you know, that bias, because there's been some players there you think, you know, you should be in, and, you know, maybe because you never used to. Well, I mean, from a UK perspective, you never used to see the Seahawks on TV because it was always, you know, playing at home in Washington, you know, way past the time you would ever get them. Nowadays, obviously, it's a bit, you know, there's much more coverage and we see games much more often. But back then, you know, unfortunately, we didn't get to see a lot of Steve Largent, which was a real shame, you know, because man, he was a great player, but we didn't get to see enough of him from a UK perspective because. You know, Seattle was the unfancied, unfavourable, you know, way out in the corner, and you don't get game time, you don't get primetime games for them, etc.
Yeah, I mean,
if that has an effect on that Hall of Fame.
Suffered from some of that in this season, right? As far as Woolen getting more consideration for Defensive Player of the Year, right? Or Defensive Rookie of the Year, I should say, and. You know, some of that is because his counterpart Sauce is in New York and was a number 1, you know, first round pick. And so, I mean, it's,
that's an interesting one.
Stats are better for Woolen, right? So, and I believe that Sauce is on the all pro team. And I don't think that Woolen even got a nomination on it.
I don't think he even got an alternate. Did he even get second team?
No, not that I'm aware of. And so,
great,
absolutely insane to me.
and I'm a bit about the Pro Bowl stuff. Is a bit like, because there's some players, and you're like, well, you wonder how much the Twitter poll popularity aspect is a bit more
for the Pro Bowl.
Pro
It's
Bowl
huge.
stuff. It's,
Yeah,
it's
the Pro Bowl
absolutely
is
enormous, isn't it? And as you say, because Sauce is this character in New York, there's inevitably, it's all focused on, he's the defensive rookie of the year. Well, hang on, there's a guy out there in Seattle who's doing better stats wise in a team, that's has made the playoffs based on their defense. Okay, it'd be interesting to see.
Oh, good.
Go on. I was just going to say we should probably talk about the AFC at some point, but yeah, you were going to say about those.
I was just going to say the voting thing has hurt Seattle routinely because, I mean, you look at guys like Doug Baldwin, who was a star receiver for us for years, had great stats, but through his entire career ended up with one Pro Bowl, I think.
Yeah.
And Tyler Lockett has now had 4 seasons in a row at over 1,000 yards and still hasn't gone in as a receiver. He went once as a special teams player.
That's crazy, isn't it? And what gets me about it now is because it's such a popularity contest driven thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does it impact that Hall of Fame nomination? Because when you get your career's done, they look back and go, "How many Pro Bowls did you get?" And it's like,
absolutely,
actually,
yeah,
it's not. You shouldn't really maybe count that as much if you play in New York or you play on the East Coast and everyone sees you and everyone votes for you because you've got a bigger fan base and therefore the Twitter polls get you in a Pro Bowl vault.
Yeah, but at the same time, the Hall of Fame is also a voting process, so
it's kind of diluted that you're the best at what you've done over your career.
Yeah, I mean they look at stats,
but if anybody remembers you based on
exactly. Yeah, so they look at your stats, but they remember what they remember. And so most of that voting poll is East Coast bias still. And so, it's from someone on the West Coast, you're just like, oh, I mean, that sucks.
Yeah, it's like I think Patrick Willis is in the list of 13 finalists, but you can kind of almost go, he's not going to get in the last 10. He's certainly not going to get in this year. I think this is his second time of trying, or second time he's been nominated. So, eligibility-wise, you do think, is he going to suffer again because he's up against some players? I mean, he's up against one of the best kick returners in the game's ever seen, so he should be a first. Hester should definitely be in the vote. He's one of those ones. He should be in the vote. Right? Okay, come on. Yeah, first ballot. He's got to be. And there's a couple in there you go, okay, yeah, fine. But you think, Willis should probably make it, but you wonder whether or not, as you say, because it's West Coast and the bias and the popularity aspect of it, whether or not he won't quite make it this time. But I guess we'll see.
Yep. Absolutely.
So, AFC wildcard, what are we looking at here? We just mentioned the Ravens without Lamar. I think Edwards has just cleared concussion protocol, so he might be back. But
I think you're right. And what they got Huntley going to be in there. I feel like it's a tall order for them to overcome the Bengals. The Bengals again are healthy.
They're healthy. They're starting to turn up again. They did last time. They got that. Just timed it quite right. Chase is back. Burrows is looking the cigar swinging Burrow of LSU again, isn't he? And I can't see a depleted Ravens team holding up against them.
No, it's I don't see that being a thing.
And I think the Bills-Dolphin game had all the hallmarks and could have been a blowout, or possibly the best game of the weekend. But
the Dolphins are going to get boat raced in that.
Absolutely. Now you look at it and you think, oh, that's going to be a great game. Tua's out. Okay, right now that changes everything, and then you just think the Bills with all the stories behind it, all the the stuff that's going on. That's just going to be an absolute one-horse race. Just going to get absolutely tanked, the Dolphins, and
Yeah, no,
not a bad season for McDaniels there, but I mean, I heard some crazy rumors that if they lost week 18 or if they didn't make the playoffs, McDaniels was possibly on the hot seat. Do you think?
So I think that's kind of true with McDaniels and with Staley. I think if they didn't make it this year, the analytics coach projects, I think we're going to start to get looked at as maybe that's not quite the route. Maybe we need guys that are coaches more
coaches
than
and then leave them as OCs and stuff. And
exactly. So, so I think it was good for both of them to get in as far as keeping their jobs, but and they have influenced the game in a positive way. I think like there's a lot more going for it on fourth down, which is always exciting. Obviously, as a fan, they're nail biters because, you know, you're either like, take the points unless it works.
Oh, we're brilliant. Why did you go for that? Why did you do it? Oh, what amazing. We went for fourth down. We were great. He's a genius. You idiot. You know, it's exactly that coin toss, isn't it, of how you can flip. And then I think the Jaguars-Chargers game, I mean, two teams, the Jags stormed into the playoffs on a hot streak compared to the absolute car crash wreck that the Jaguars were last season under Urban Meyer. I mean, Norman, that's an amazing coach of the year-esque sort of turnaround from Peterson to get them to play football, to be a team, and to be in the playoffs. And I think with a chance against the Chargers. I know it's Herbert and the Chargers, and they're kind of a sexy team, but I don't know.
As I recall, the line on that is literally 1 point.
It's so tight, I think, yeah. And I think the Jags win that game. Because I think the home field advantage is possibly just enough to get them over the line on that, yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's funny because both of these teams you don't really know which team's going to show up, right? Because both of them, when they're on, they can beat anybody.
Yeah.
But you don't know if they're going to be on. And the Jags have strung a few good games together against like above 500 teams, and the Chargers finished, you know, still finishing with wins, but they were all, you know, sub 500 teams. So now all of a sudden they got to go against a playoff caliber team on the road. I'm going to go with the Jags can pull that one off.
I think so. I've got the Jags. I just see the Jags doing that one. I think that the Duval train is rolling. Lawrence is looking like a number one pick, and you know he looks good. He looks like an NFL QB. He looks like what they all said he was. You know, he obviously last season he didn't have a chance to show it. So it's an amazing turnaround.
Was amazing.
yeah. It was amazing, but amazing on the negative side of amazing.
Oh yeah. It was 100%. It was amazing. Like just fire top to bottom. I mean, you couldn't have had more distraction and just dumb stuff around a franchise than they did last year. Like it was absolutely horrendous.
It's like you're amazing they didn't have Hard Knocks or some sort of spoof of Hard Knocks.
Imagine Urban on Hard Knocks.
It would never have made it to. It wouldn't have made it to air though, would it? Speaking of dumpster fires.
Hey!
That's a segue you in on the dumpster fire discussion because wow, what is happening in Glendale, Jason?
Great question, Gary. Great question.
Oh, man.
I mean, you've got your QB1 who doesn't seem, you know, there's some rumblings from your veteran players who look slightly worried he might not be putting the rehab time in. Head coach is now out the box. What is going on? How do you feel from a fan perspective? Are you just watching in horror, or are you kind of happy that some of the changes have happened?
You know, the Steve Keim thing I think needed to be done. You know, and unfortunately, when you change a GM, it's not like, you know, a new GM is going to step in and keep everything status quo and everybody's going to keep their job and be, you know, come to work on Monday as usual. So, you know, you knew changes were coming down.
But you know, D-Hop, really?
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think of with the D-Hop thing is money, right? Yeah. Hollywood's cheaper. You if you extrapolate Hollywood's numbers over 17 games with Kyler, he's the number one. He's got 119 receptions, over 1,200 yards, 7 touchdowns. That's in 17 games if he plays with Kyler Murray. So I get it. D-Hop's better. I don't care how you twist it, how you shape it, how you look at it, how you twist the stats. D-Hop's better, period. Helen Keller knows that. And I don't think anybody would pick Hollywood over D-Hop except Kyler Murray.
Mm-hmm.
So those two are best friends. Those two go back. Hollywood's the reason why, or Kyler's the reason why Hollywood's here.
Do you think it was an ego thing as well? D-Hop's quite a big character, and you think, we talked about it just before. We were saying that it's odd that Kyler's got a say in who the next head coach will be. Is Kyler almost too big a character?
I think he has too much control.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of you know what? I watched that press conference, and it's crazy how the media is twisting that to frame it like Kyler's going to be in on all the interviews and do some. No, the question was posed to Michael Bidwell: will Kyler have input on the next head coach? And Michael's answer was, well, yeah. I will get input from Kyler Murray just like I will from any of the other team captains. They just so happen to leave that part out of it.
Of course, because it doesn't sell sort of.
Is that Kyler is going to have input on the next head coach? It's like, well, that's not exactly what he said at all, but. So,
it's not just what he said, but you wouldn't expect your franchise quarterback who's signed up for however many years on a massive deal. Obviously, he's going to say, or he's going to kind of have some input to it. You hope not, and Bo and I, as we said, I hope not like too much to the detriment of because if he has a big say in it, then how does that head coach stamp his authority on the team when he comes in? If he's kind of like, oh, you kind of only got the job because Kyler said so, and that's kind of maybe, as you say, that's the media spin they're putting on it.
That's easy enough. He just does some friendly fire shots in Call of Duty, and ruin them.
Yeah, we're all on Call of Duty working out which NFL coaches play it. They're just like, there you go, you're going to the Cardinals.
I really think, and I didn't think that the Sean Payton thing was, I thought it was a pipe dream, really, and to be honest with you, I didn't really necessarily want Sean Payton here. I thought it would cost too much. I didn't think that the issues that we had were that big, and I didn't think we were that far away from, the playoffs and the dance until yesterday. And it wasn't like yesterday I was like, oh no, now we have all these problems. No, I still think we have the same amount of problems as we did last week and the week before. And here's the issue, though. If you're Michael Bidwell, okay, and I forwarded you guys an article yesterday, right, that talked about this unnamed veteran Cardinals player. Mm-hmm. I quoted him as saying, ever since Kyler got that bag, it's like the Cardinals created a monster, right? Mm-hmm. And Kyler's just been this, for lack of better words, prima donna, And right then I thought about it, and I went back to the press conference with Michael Bidwell and some of his phrasing and terminology that he used. One of the questions was asked to him, is finances going to be an issue when you're hunting and hiring the new head coach, the next head coach and GM? And he said, no, we're going to hire, the one that we feel is the best. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the most expensive, but we feel it's going to be the best. If you go back to I think it was 2006, we hired Bruce Arians, and he was the last head coach hired, didn't get the biggest salary, but he was the best head coach, I believed, of that group that was hired. He was the best head coach hired. So I think Michael Bidwell does do his due diligence. But thinking about that comment, thinking about what's come out recently, the last 24 hours, if we know this and if we've heard about this, doesn't it make sense that the front office and Michael Bidwell has known about this for a long time? Kind of makes sense why he would put that 4-hour study clause in his contract last year. why don't you go out there and protect your investment? You spent $230 million on this guaranteed money contract, which the contract is actually bigger, but it's $230 million guaranteed. Why don't you go out there and protect your investment? Drop 10% to protect that investment and protect this team, because you bring Sean Payton in here, and I'm telling you, it's a game changer for different reasons. I'm not saying that Sean Payton's going to bring us a Super Bowl. What I'm saying is Sean Payton, I think, can get to Kyler Murray. And I think he can get the best out of Kyler Murray. And if he doesn't, then we can get rid of Kyler Murray. And let me tell you something, this fan base would feel very comfortable with Sean Payton as our head coach moving on from Kyler.
Yeah,
so
but
it makes all kind of sense to bring Sean Payton in here to protect that investment.
I mean, I don't know that he necessarily loves that job opportunity, but when is the buyout on Kyler's contract? Do you know the opt out? I mean, there always is one.
Yeah, it's 2075.
His grandkids will be still playing.
Yeah. No, I'm not exactly sure when the buyout is, but if you look at his other options, you look at the Texans, right?
Yep.
He's not going to the Texans, people.
No.
Okay. You look at Denver, right? Why would he Why would he go to Denver and be tied to Russell Wilson for 3 years? Why? Okay.
Definitely not.
Dallas. Well, Sean Payton has said, I want to go somewhere that has a solid front office where Sean Payton can be a solid, good voice, head coach and GM voice. Mm-hmm. Why would he go to Dallas?
We said that.
As long as Jerry Jones still has air in his lungs,
no big head coaches. Yeah, no big
that's one of the least desirable jobs.
Everybody else is just the puppet over there.
Yeah.
Arizona, and you forget about this. People forget Sean Payton used to be in the Cardinals organization. He was a ball boy for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Oh, yeah.
So he's known the Bidwells forever, since he was a little kid.
Oh.
So,
yeah,
I do think we have a solid front office.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's kind of hard to say that with a straight face.
Well done for actually getting that out.
You get to rebuild a front office, so
yeah, and who better to do that with than Sean Payton? Sean Payton can bring in some of his guys, and again, you asked me this on Wednesday. I'm not sold on the Sean Payton. Today, I'm like, it almost has to be Sean Payton because we need some serious work over here.
Yeah,
we look at it. If it's not Sean, who else? I mean, is there a strong enough character out there to do it?
Yeah. No, I think it'd be interesting if the Raiders went and got him and then also went and got Lamar. Yeah. Like that would be interesting to watch because that team could be very different come kickoff next season. But, who knows with all the moving pieces, especially at quarterback, what would be the most enticing place for Sean Payton? I had someone ask me yesterday if they thought that we should bring in Rodgers to the Seahawks. And I laughed because it was like, you've got to be kidding me. He's not going to want to be doing anything in the preseason or off season. He doesn't like rookies. He's not like a good cultural fit. I'm pretty sure we watched this exact thing happen in Denver this year.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't think they want to sign up for that. A $50 million quarterback that doesn't want to practice with his team and then comes in and probably doesn't play great. So, but yeah, I don't know. I guess Peyton could be a decent fit for you guys. You got a lot of holes to start to fill now, though.
Well, yeah, that we do. I mean, defensive line, cornerback, that back end of that defense. Defense in general just needs a lot of money, needs a lot of work.
Wide receiver too.
Yeah.
Wide receiver too now.
I do like Greg Dortch and Rondell Moore, and I really and that's another thing. If we bring in Sean Payton, right? Let's say we bring in Sean Payton. Let's say next Friday, it's announced Sean Payton's going to be the next head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. I think D-Hop's on the phone with Bidwell and company, like, hey, let's work something out.
Yeah.
I'll
Like,
renegotiate my contract. I'll do what I have to do. But if you got Sean Payton,
Players are suddenly going to want to come
Kyler
play in Arizona.
Murray, you got me in the X, you got Hollywood in the Z, or Y. You got Rondell in the slot.
As you say, you're not that far off. The defense needs some pieces. James Conner in the backfield. You got some bits and pieces there. And as you say, Sean Payton at the head of that. Players are going to be like, I wouldn't mind going to Arizona. I wouldn't mind it. He brings that mystique or that magnetism, doesn't he? And you'll get players who want to go there. So yeah, he's obviously the hottest property in coaching right now.
Yeah, and to your point, Gary, and so it doesn't make a lot of sense to get rid of one of your biggest pieces right now when we're not that far away. If we were the Chicago Bears, if we were the Panthers, if we were a team that had a ton of holes and needed a lot of work, I get it. I understand that. But I really don't feel like we're that far away. So to trade D, it just doesn't make any, especially when he's so well admired in the community. He's such a good guy.
It's got to be. You'd only say that the only thing to look at is he on a crazy contract? Is he asking for so much money or whatever else? Do you need to kind of clear some space? It makes footballing. It doesn't make any footballing sense, but maybe a bottom line.
It'd be a $23 million dead cap hit. So
it's either money or it's ego in the locker room, something that we don't pick up or something. It's an odd one.
Yeah, I wish I knew.
Kyler's still supposed to be, in theory, available for week 1.
In theory, he's supposed to be available week 1, but the second part of that
if
article
he's put in the rehab is
talked about what's if he's got that type of attitude and that type of entitlement and that bag already secured.
Mm-hmm. So you got Colt.
What's pushing him to come back?
Yeah. No, exactly. Especially since it's guaranteed contract, right?
It's guaranteed. So
yeah. So now I figure realistically, you're Colt McCoy to start the season. I mean, the good thing is you still had an under contract for this upcoming season.
And the good thing is, everybody, Cardinal Nation loves Colt McCoy.
He can play. Like he is a viable quarterback.
Absolutely.
Like he'll go in and beat good teams. Like he's smart with the football, throws a good ball. Not the most athletic ever, but
it'd be interesting if that's, will that change the game plan? Because Cardinals, you're set up for a Kyler Murray Ram offense that Colt McCoy can't quite run, obviously. So, will the new head coach you look to kind of have a game plan which utilizes maybe Colt McCoy's strengths a little bit more early on?
I feel like you have to, because you have the whole preseason to work with him. You're a new coach, so you got to implement the program. So, I mean, Colt's going to be your guy. I think even if Kyler's ready week 1, I don't know that he necessarily gets the start because he's not going to have the reps.
No. I mean, I think is he due to be ready for preseason, or he's ready for preseason, or is he?
The reports are today, right now, that he will be ready week 1. So
if he puts the rehab,
but who knows? But that's today. Who knows?
Yeah. There's a lot of time between.
He just had his surgery last week.
Yeah,
so,
there's a lot of Call of Duty double XP weekends coming up.
That's right. I
mean, to be fair, he can't do a lot of work this first month anyway, so he can get all the playtime in. Yeah. Now, if it's mid that a new upgrade comes out, that's where the problem lies.
That's right.
That's where it starts to get really interesting.
The expansion pack drops, it's a wrap.
Jason, appreciate you jumping in, man.
Can we run down the picks real quick about this weekend?
Yep. So we got the Vikings doing at home. We see the Vikings taking on the Giants, and we see that's a home win. The Vikings have got just a bit too much with the Giants, so they're just going to hand the ball to Saquon, pretty much a one-track pony, and Vikings are too strong there.
I got the Vikings. Yeah.
Cowboys Bucks is a coin toss. Could go either way. The Cowboys defense probably strong enough to hold out the Tampa.
Yeah, I took Cowboys in that.
I think the Cowboys,
but not by much.
And I don't think it's relatively close.
Mm. And then I've got.
I do, just because the Cowboys are the Cowboys and it's postseason.
Yeah, I think they'll get past the Bucks and then they'll implode.
Exactly. I think I think they're one and done. They'll beat the Bucks, and then whoever they play next. Yes, I agree, Gary.
And then our game, obviously, I've got the Niners taking that, but probably on a 12-9 slugfest in the rain, because apparently it's supposed to just be hideous weather. It's going to be one of those. Nothing gets very little airtime. Churn up the middle, and kicking game 15-10. Something. It's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be a fun game for the neutrals, but it'll be entertaining and tense.
If only you guys had a run game and a great defense. Oh wait, you do.
Yeah. And if only we're playing against a team whose Achilles heel is running defense. Oh wait, yeah.
So, no, I mean we definitely struggle against the run, but we know you're not going to take the top off, so our safety's going to play down. So I mean, it is a little bit of an equalizer being windy and rainy. I do think the Niners win. I don't think they cover. That 10-point spread, I think, is a pipe dream. So, but I think you're right. I think it's going to be, a 2 to 5 point margin of victory. Like, it's not going to be anything impressive, and it's going to be low scoring.
Yeah, it's not going to be 42. I think the 42 over under. I don't think we're going to get close to that.
Oh, I didn't see the over under, but it's the under no matter what.
I think it definitely depends on the weather that day. But here's a stat I heard a couple weeks ago, and I'm so impressed that the Niners on first down gain a leading 6 yards on first down.
Yep.
No.
When you start second down with 2nd and 4 every second, I mean,
it's just such a relaxed, such a position. It's almost like you're sitting on your sofa for second down, isn't it?
And
I was watching against you guys, and I was watching McCaffrey, and one thing I noticed against the Cardinals, some of the runs, I don't know if it was just because I was watching it a little closer, or the way they were scheming it, I didn't notice that first step acceleration that McCaffrey had. And I noticed it against the Cardinals. He is like rapid over those 2 or 3 steps. He's, there were a couple of runs where they were almost like draw plays. It was a delayed sort of run, and he just suddenly went, right, go now. And it's like, whoa, he was 3-4 yards forward. And it's like, I did not realize just how rapid he is. So yeah, as you say, getting 6 yards in that first, if it is going to be rainy, windy, and we can get 6 yards on our first downs, then sit down, get comfy. Unfortunately for the Seattle defense, it's going to be a long game.
Yeah. No, I mean, the weather for that day is supposed to be monsoon, rain, and wind. So, I mean, it's tough to say. And so some of that, as far as especially his one-step plant acceleration, some of that goes away just because footing is going to be terrible.
Yeah.
But
I do wonder if the Niners will play a bit more TDP and Mason just from a bruising aspect, and the bigger backs early on.
I mean, if the weather report is correct, I feel like they probably have to. Just somehow.
I don't know if TDP will be activated. Elijah Moore is back, so
Mitchell, yeah.
So I mean, but again, with Jordan Mason, Elijah Moore, McCaffrey, I mean,
I think they activated Tevin. I mean, just for fun and games, they activated Tevin Coleman off the practice squad, and it's like, because we can just bring another guy in. It's just like it's just not fair at times when you see that. And then on the AFC, we've got the Bengals taking care of the Ravens because
easy
done. We got the Bills rolling over the tourless Dolphins. Just absolutely
won't be a game.
Yeah, and then we've got the Jags just taking the Chargers at home, because I think that will be the game of the weekend.
Yeah, that's the one interesting game I'm looking forward to watch. Right? I mean, if Jacksonville shows up, and if Doug Peterson shows up, and coaches the way he can and gets his team ready, I really feel like Jacksonville wins this game, by a touchdown or more. But San Diego surprises you sometimes, right? No Mike Williams, but hey, if Jacksonville's defense can just key in and stop Austin Eckler, that's game, set, match. But if they can't, I mean, San Diego's got a puncher's chance, right?
Yeah, I think that'll be the game of the weekend. They've got, as you said, a chance of just bombing it, and Herbert just using his arm just to cut things apart. It's going to be a great game.
Yeah,
It's the one
I
I'd
mean-
be interested to watching. Yeah.
that's the one.
Whoever
I'm
comes
most
out of that
interested
game
to,
loses
Yeah,
the fourth week. But
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a one and done. Whoever, because they're up against the Bills the next week, right? Or is it the Chargers? They go against the Chiefs the next week.
either one doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like
either way, they're getting smoked.
whoever rolls into Arrowhead is going to be a real problem. But yeah, that's who we've got. So we got Niners, Vikings, Cowboys, and then we've got Bengals, Bills, Jaguars.
Okay, we're unanimous. Good. So, and the early onset, who's our Super Bowl picks? I got KC and San Fran, with San Fran winning it.
I got Bills, San Fran with the Niners.
Yeah, I had Bills, San Fran.
But then, especially now with the Bills KC game being played in Atlanta, takes out the KC advantage of home field not playing at Arrowhead.
True.
Yeah,
that might give the Bills that little bit more edge because they don't have to go to KC.
Yeah, if it does end up being Bills versus Niners, then it'll really come down to if the moment is too big for Purdy.
Yeah.
If
And
they
it's
can get in
interesting.
and rattle him,
Yeah, and that's the team. Those two teams, you look at KC because they absolutely destroyed us when they came over and they showed us how to play football. I mean, we've learned from there. We've added the best utility back, and it's completely opened our playbook in game since that game.
Mm-hmm.
And so it'll be an interesting one. But yeah, those two teams, the Bills, as you say, will that be the Brock Purdy test of the big game? I mean, it's interesting. Everyone's saying, "Oh, it's Brock Purdy's first playoff game." It's Geno Smith's first playoff game.
I mean, it could end up being Bills, Bills Eagles. Since
Eagles,
the
I mean,
Niners can't lose tomorrow.
that's funny. We're totally dismissing the Eagles too. Man, that's not even.
It's like they're not even in the
Disrespect.
disrespect. They had the best record in the regular season, but it's like, we reckon.
I mean, they didn't finish strong.
No.
Like,
I mean, they lost their quarterback for the last 3 games.
Yeah.
So
true,
it'll
but
be interesting.
the rest of their team didn't respond super well either, though. So
Well, again, it's all about the playoffs. It's a brand new season now.
Yep.
The year the Cardinals went to the Super Bowl in December, we got blown out twice. Not once, but twice. Once by the Vikings, once by the Patriots. They put 40 burgers on us. So, we limped into the playoffs 9-8, and then Anquan Bolden and Larry Fitzgerald just did their thing. And the next thing you know, we're playing in Florida.
Yep.
And, so who knows?
And the
see.
Giants are like that. Anytime the Giants get to the playoffs,
Exactly.
they tend to go deep. So they're a kind of team
I mean,
that get in and go.
The thing is,
deep.
Gary, go deep to who?
Yeah, okay. And that was the discussion we had. It's like, who do you go to? Kenny Golladay?
yeah.
Oof, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is you only need 4 games, no matter what you did all season. If you can get 4 games together, that's it.
That's right. Just get in the dance. And that's, and I was thinking about that earlier about Seattle. Seattle and Jacksonville, I think I would put in the same category. You guys have done so much for your brand just getting to the playoffs. And I don't mean that as a slight, but I mean that as this entice other free agents to come to Seattle, to come to Jacksonville, because look what you guys are doing. I mean, Doug Peterson got Jacksonville in the playoffs. They went from last to first in a year.
Yep.
Right? Pete Carroll took Seattle, who everybody thought was going to be a 1-2 win, maybe 3-win team, to the playoffs. All of a sudden, Pete Carroll knows what he's doing. He might be the quarterback whisperer, right? This entices free agents to want to come play for you.
Well, especially when you look at how young the pieces are, how well they already played, and you're guaranteed they're on the team for the next 4 or 5 years.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. You
all
look
of
at
a
Evan
team-friendly deals.
Evan Ingram over there in Jacksonville. He did an interview and he was talking about, I watched Doug Peterson over in Philly and watched what he did with Zach Ertz and tight ends, and I was like, I want to play for that guy. And when he got his opportunity in Jacksonville, and Evan Ingram was like, I'm going to Jacksonville to go play for Doug Peterson. So those kind of things, players recognize that stuff. So the stuff that that Pete Carroll and Doug, these guys are doing, it's amazing, and it's a testament, and it just, it's a great advertisement for all these free agents or guys that are coming, D-hops, right, that are going to get moved and go to teams and great teams. So it's exciting.
As you said, Bo, the Hawks, Jaguars, they're playing with house money. They've got to the playoffs. It's a win-win. What have they got to lose now? Yes, it's the playoffs, and you want to win it, but it's a winning season. You've done so well, as you say, the Jaguars to go from dead last and a dumpster fire to actually winning their division and being in the playoffs. Go out and have fun, right?
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it. Super Wildcard Weekend, folks. It's coming. Enjoy it. Have fun. Jason, great for you to jump in. Appreciate seeing you guys.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Take it easy. You guys have a great weekend, and we'll catch up next week. Bye for now.